This episode of Grilled is sponsored by Rationale, your leading provider in multifunctional hot food preparation equipment. Register now for a free Rationale live demo at www.rationale-online.com.
Hello, thank you for joining me for another episode of Grilled by the Staff Canteen. I'm Cara, editor of the Staff Canteen, and my guests today are Luke Butcher and the Prince of Birmingham, Glynn Purnell. So I've dragged them on today to talk about the new book, A Purnell's Journey There and Back Again. So thank you both for joining me in your fancy office today.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
So while we were all stuck at home getting drunk and pretending to learn new skills in lockdown, you two have obviously been very busy finishing off and writing this little gem. We'll get to have a chat about. I mean, I say little. It is it's about 300 and something pages. And Luke, you did say I couldn't have a physical copy because it's so heavy.
Yeah, like 6 kilos.
Yeah,
it's 6 kilos. Yeah, it's a 6 kilo book. Yeah. So we're thinking about writing books on weights like chefs, you know. So if you buy a piece of sirloin by the kilo, you buy a book by the fucking kilo. That's what we're thinking.
It sounds like a monster.
It is.
So before we talk about the book, I just want to know how you're feeling coming out of lockdown, and then obviously there's been a lot said about possible new local lockdown rules that can be enforced by the council in Birmingham. So what does that mean for yourselves as a business, but also everyone else who's trying to keep themselves afloat? Because it's not just a hospitality issue there, is it?
No. Obviously, the local lockdown thing is, you know, it has to happen if the numbers spike, which isn't great news for someone that owns a business. But rather than having a complete lockdown where the country has to lock down, so everybody has to suffer, I think local lockdowns are important. Obviously, I don't want a local lockdown in Birmingham. Whether it be key areas, whether it be the city centre, we don't know. I know that Manchester have had a lockdown, so I don't know how they've come out at the other end, because us guys have really just had our heads, you know, to the ground, just doing our job. So again, we just have to wait, and if that's what it is what it is, and we just have to recoil back and, I don't know, start drinking more Negronis again. I don't know.
Negroni seems to be the theme of my podcast today that I've been talking to. Everyone seems to have been having
new
Negroni.
Lockdown drink.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the book. I don't know really where to start. I did say I have had some actual laugh out loud moments after going through. So Claude's sleeping snails, that made me giggle. Kray Treadwell.
It didn't make me giggle when he punched me in the arm.
I can imagine.
That wasn't funny. Over a snail.
And Kray Treadwell, he's obviously just opened a new place in Birmingham. 4% dwarf, it says in your book, which I wasn't aware of. Which is
I don't know where that percentage is, but it is a percentage, Luke, isn't
and
it?
That's doctoral facts he got told by the
it's
doctors.
Just
so
such a random fact to be in there that I was like, okay. So,
I forgot to put that in there.
So, I mean, for anyone who is going to have a read of this, it has got everything from prostitutes, Gordon Ramsay, football, and that's before we get to the actual dishes. So you're both laughing like you don't know what's in this book. Did you actually write it?
I'm just remembering it. That's my problem.
It was started such a long time ago that you it's all new again now. Now it's all complete. Yeah.
I mean, the prostitutes, football, and Gordon Ramsay, and 4% dwarfs. That is obviously true.
I mean, I feel like that should be in like a review caption that will grab people.
You can see it. Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about all in more detail. For people listening now are going to be like, what are these lot on? They have definitely had Negronis before they've started this interview. So let's start with the fact that there are some great chefs in the foreword, and it's not naturally British, is it, to take compliments? We always go a bit like, oh, don't say nice things about me. Yeah. Is it? What was it like reading those? You must have felt very loved to read those.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think as the industry's progressed and moved on and become more intelligent and a bit more receptive and inquisitive about each other as chefs. Years and years ago, you'd grunt at another chef like we were sort of puffing our chests out like old wily cockerels. Now I think it's nice that we know that we're in the industry together and that we can actually have compliments for each other. praise other people's ideas and innovation and moving forward, exchange and swap recipes and stuff. So I just think it's nice that the industry, which is it's a very male-dominated industry, that's why the grumpy chef has always prevailed. But I think it's nice that now you can sit back and take a little bit of compliment, but give just as much compliment and as much love, really, to people that are in the same position as you. You know, sore feet, smelly aprons, all the rest of it. You know exactly what I'm on about. And it's just nice that we can look like we're a bit more of a modern thinking industry, because we still have got that relic dinosaur sort of male sort of behaviour that still lingers around us. So it's nice to take compliments and it's nice to give them now, I think. What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I noticed a massive change when I had a year out, when I first left the Hand and Flowers and then I moved back home. When I then phoned Tom and groveled for my job back a year later, he said how fantastic the industry is and how much it had changed. In the space of sort of 12 to 13 months, it changed from being, you didn't talk to anyone, everyone was an enemy or a rival, whereas he said, you know, I've got all these friends, I've got Claude Bosi, Sat Baines, Glynn Purnell, Daniel Clifford, Nathan Allen, you know, we're all friends. And, you know, we share ideas, you know, we go and eat each other's restaurants. And literally, for me, in the space of 12 to 13 months, the whole industry changed. Obviously, this was quite a while ago now, but it changed for the better.
Yeah.
And that was for me, going away and coming back, I could see it full on. It was good. It was good.
Don't get me wrong, there's still some grumpy ones out there.
Yeah.
I know, I speak to you all every day.
What I will say is, all of the grumpy ones out there, I've been doing the job for over 30 years now. Don't be so grumpy. It's all right. Yeah? We chop onions for a living. Get your head round it.
Just relax. Luke, you said that this book's been, it started a long time ago. This has been a long time in the making. So why did you feel now was the right time for this book? And I know you've written books before, but I imagine this is a pretty special one.
Sure, it's just Cheese is in here. Cheese, come in.
We were just doing a podcast, Cheese.
I thought you were looking behind you for someone else to answer the question.
We
I
heard
was
an
thinking,
angry elephant coming down the stairs.
Cheese is one of the sous chefs on the meat fish. He wants something. What do you want, Cheese?
The laptop.
He wants a laptop. Sorry, we're gonna have to lift you up here for a second.
okay.
Okay. Thank you. You can leave this in the podcast because it's normal. This is the chef's office.
It definitely is. Well, everyone will know that it's genuine, a very genuine interview.
Yeah.
So, why did you think now was the right time?
I think Purnell's been open for 13 years. We did cracking yolks and we did the shoeing, and that was directed and guided a little bit by the publishers. So the publisher said, we want it to be restaurant food, but then we want it to be food that can be accessible for home. And then you sort of look at other chefs' books and you think to yourself, well, you know, it might be nice for us to have a bit of an ego sort of book and show what we do at the restaurant more so than the Saturday kitchen stuff and all the rest of it, which is great and fantastic. And it was a little bit of a crossover, the two books. But this one is purely the restaurants. You know, the recipes are a little bit long-winded, but it's the truth. You know, it's not like a book where you open it and you go, well, actually, I can't make that because I've missed out half the recipe. And you might look at the recipe and see, wow, that's far too much to do. But it is the actual recipe. Yeah. It's, you know, Luke's written a lot of the recipes on the basis of how we would use them at the restaurants. A lot of the recipes are in everybody's books and bits and pieces. So you're given the recipes that are at the kitchen. For instance, the bread. You know, people say how fantastic the bread is, but we've told you exactly what flour to buy, exactly make it. So you should be able to make it, you know? So we've given a lot of secrets from the kitchen in the book, really. So I think that's what we thought it was time. And, you know, I know at Purnell's, we generally don't want to stop doing stuff. I think it's a case of, let's do it, you know.
It was from an idea, didn't it? It was kind of, when it first started, I didn't think it was originally intended to be as big. But it just kind of grew and grew, and with Andy, who we were working on the book, fantastic, and it kind of organically developed into this monster behemoth of a book, which at the end, when you open it for the first time, it kind of, you take a step back and it kind of makes you think, wow, this is good. You know, this has actually been worth everything that we've done. So
I mean, that was one of my questions. That was going to be that now it's all done and you've seen a physical copy of it. I'm assuming you've seen a physical copy of it.
I won't check it out.
Have you got one?
This is I think there's only 3 in the country at the moment.
Yeah, that's massive.
I know, that's what they all say to me. It's just a matter of time before that happened. Right, so this is wolf, yeah? And
Yeah.
Shall I open it just to show you?
Yeah, no, you can, yeah. Let me have a look.
So this is one that's supposed to be preserved, but we'll open it anyway. So we've got this little sign here. It says, "Do not worry if this box is bashed up. It's just there to protect what is inside." That's what that says. Okay. So don't get upset if your brown box comes a little bit battered. It's fine, yeah. Right. So, and then if you open it up,
I feel like I need a T-shirt with that on.
That's marketing. That's good. That is.
Racking T-shirt. All right. So if we put that over there, right, you can see the office isn't that big. So then there's the actual book, which is hard cardboard sort of presentation box. And then if you open it up, then you get the book itself. Oh, should we turn? Let's turn onto a food picture. Here we are. And then that's the sort of size.
Oh wow, they look amazing. Like, obviously, I've only seen a digital copy, so it looks amazing.
Hang on, let's have a look. And then if you've got, what we tried to do as well, we tried to, there's Luke there. So we tried to, what I wanted, like Purnell's has been going obviously for 13 years, and obviously we had 4.5 years of Jessica's. It's never just about the chef. It's about the chef's philosophy and the chef's sort of thought process on food. But without the team and without people behind you along the journey, you're never going to get to the end. You can't do it all on your own. Mm-hmm. So you've got to sort of recruit people as the journey rolls on, and you recruit more people. Some people stay, some people move on, which makes the journey more interesting. And I think anybody that's owned a restaurant that runs a brigade even, they've got those loyal people that are with you, the likes of Luke, Sam and Phil and Cheese, who've just been in. So I wanted their page to sort of represent what they are, and so we had a bit of fun as well. So there's Phil with octopus on deck.
Yeah, I love the staff pictures. I think they're brilliant. I really like those pictures. They're great.
Yeah, I just think it's nice to sort of pay homage to people that have been part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm constantly going to whack that down there, Luke. It's the only copy we've got now. So, and I just think, any chef that says he goes into the office, writes his menu, and then comes out and puts it on isn't really telling the truth, because you need people to, if you've got an idea, you need it to bounce off people. So if I come up in the morning and say, I thought about this, or if Luke comes in and says, actually, let's do this, then others will bounce off each of that. And I think it's important to make sure that you recognise people that, one, you've worked for, and two, are working for you. I think that's, I see lots of influences when Luke does a recipe, might have a touch of Tom Kerridge to it because of his sort of training there. And then, I've got Cheese, who worked a little bit for Marcus Waring, and he'll do, you know what I mean? So it's a case of like, and without your team, you can't do that. You can't do that. So,
well, you mentioned the team a lot throughout the book, so I was going to say that to you. Was that always a big thing that you wanted to celebrate the team and it not just be a book about you?
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many pictures you can look about me. Do you know what I mean? It's as I'm growing older and greyer, less is more. I think it's important that you do that. And also, they have ownership of that as well, because they've contributed to that journey. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly either filling out visas or references for people that have worked for me over the last sort of 13, 18 years. I've just sent a reference to Ben Taylor, who was sous chef at 11 Madison, who was worked for Claude, who was sent there. Leon, we were drunk. We went to Kray's place on Wednesday. I treated the boys because of we unlocked from lockdown really well. Everyone's working hard. Everyone's sacrificing their own time to try and support the business. So we went out for dinner. And so that he worked with us for nearly 4 years. And to go and eat there, he's, for me as an older man now, he's fantastic. And I just hope all of them go and have restaurants, because eventually I will never have to pay the bill, will I?
I like your thinking there. And Luke, obviously, Glenn's already said that you were instrumental in writing a lot of the recipes, but how much more were you involved in this? How much do you do alongside Glynn when you were creating this book?
I think the
the first part was obviously, it's about Glynn's journey from when he first started. So that sort of part is all his story.
Yeah.
And in terms, we went through recipe menus from days gone by, and we tried to pick out some dishes that are constantly reoccurring. We have obviously got Glynn's classics, you know, the haddock and egg, carpaccio of beef, monkfish masala, the egg 10-10-10. You know, we have these solid classics. We also have a lot of dishes now over the last, well, I've been here 10 years now, over the last 10 years that we always sort of go back to. Ones that we know work, that obviously we will tweak every sort of time they come back around, but we have these solid base of dishes that we do always come back to sort of season on season, which we know works. We tried to find, we sort of found a pattern of what we always kind of, the flavors and what kind of dishes we kind of went back to, and we brought them into the book, which then made us look at it then. And then as we were writing the book and we were doing the recipes, we were then putting these dishes back on the menu, and it kind of made us realize how many dishes we actually have, which are solid, and we keep, as I say, season on season we can come back to and you know, slightly tweak them, improve them, and we've got a big back catalogue.
Yeah.
I mean, since we've come back from lockdown, because obviously we're on limited hours and limited covers, we've took us. I sort of consciously made a sort of decision to sort of like, let's give some of the classics a fucking day off. Do you know what I mean? So some of the weeks, so monkfish masala, for instance, which has never really come off the menu. It was on at Jessica's in some form, but it's never really come off. We've give that a rest, you know, and that comes back every 3 or 4 weeks, because we do one tasting menu, which constantly changes it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or the fisherman might say, well, actually, the monkfish isn't any good at the moment because obviously there's not so many boats going out and stuff, and we only buy off the sustainable sort of day boats. We've sort of changed the menu more regularly, and we've gone back to some of the dishes in the book, but then we've created more. And as we've created more dishes and become more creative because of being oppressed for 4 months as a chef, we've been oppressed to have. We've had to cook fucking lasagna, do you know what I mean? Which is fine, because my kids love lasagna, but do you know what I mean? Like, we want to like puff our chests out and show the world what we got, but lasagna and macaroni and cheese, I'm sick of it. So since we've come back, we've almost taken the shackles off a little bit and gone a little bit more creative, and tried stuff that possibly wouldn't have before. Not that we've changed the style, but it's just give us an opportunity to say, well, actually, we'll put this on for 3 days because we bought this fantastic rabbit off wherever, and we'll put that on. When that's finished, we'll do another dish. So it's been
almost a breath of fresh air. And for yourself as well, you can see sort of the enthusiasm in the kitchen, where we do kind of have our, say, the shackles on, because people do come, they wait 9 months and they want to come to the restaurant. They want to have the monkfish salad, they want to have the 10-10-10 egg, they want to have these dishes that are synonymous with Purnell's. But obviously, being closed for so long, everyone was constantly thinking of stuff. As soon as we came back, it's just ideas after ideas. And it's been a bit refreshing to be able to go, okay, well, this weekend we're doing this. Next weekend we'll change it. We can, and keeping the core food and the core, personality of what Purnell's is, but being able to create new dishes, and everyone is buzzing because of it. It's just every day is something new again, which we haven't had for a while. Yeah, and
also sometimes having to, like, when I first opened Jessica's, I constantly would write the menu on what was on the market, which obviously we've always cooked with seasons, but because obviously when the restaurant first opened in July, we were limited on stuff. Yeah. So, for instance, like certain breeds of beef, because the stock had diminished and they hadn't brought it, duck was one. Duck wasn't on the menu because 4 months of not breeding the ducks, there was no duck.
Okay.
So it was like, we can't have duck on the menu. So it was like interesting to then be able to say, well, actually, at the minute, the cod's really good, or that's really good, and then making up sort of dishes of what is on, which gives that sort of creativity, really. So.
Yeah. I mean, you both have mentioned the monkfish dish, and in your book you do say that is the perfect dish, and you challenge any chef to improve that. So I would just quite like to know which chef you would choose to take that challenge on. Is there anyone you think that could do it?
Anyone with a good set of bollocks, to be honest with you. It is in my eyes, it is perfection. I mean, It's not basted in like a pound of butter. It tastes like it tastes. It's a very different sort of take. I mean, there's lots of people have done similar sort of dishes, and not saying they're emulating from me at all, but using spice and stuff with fish. But for a white Western chef to come up with an Indian dish, I challenge most Indian chefs to try and beat that Indian dish. There you go.
Okay, we've heard it here first.
At the end of the day, my real name is Glynn Purnell, not Purnell. That's all I'm going to say.
And Glynn, what's it like to see your life written down in a massive book? But what's it like to see that? That must be quite strange, no?
It is, yeah. But to be honest with you, and you can ask a few of my closer chef friends, that not all of the stories I've made the book, to be honest.
I didn't think they would have, to be fair.
Because I don't like being sued. That's all I don't like being. No, to be fair, it's you know what? It's obviously.
Is there an uncensored copy somewhere?
There is, yeah, but I'm going to do that under a different name. Under a different name, and maybe then you can get a proper forward from Claude, Sam, Tom, Daniel, and a few of the others. No, to be fair, it's quite emotional really when you sort of sit down and you start talking about, you know, from the day you sort of was carrying sacks of potato down from the garage for your family to then, you know, working in 2- and 3-star kitchens, to then winning a star, to then, you know, in the gravy. When you look at it, it is actually it's very humbling, because you think to yourself, well, actually, you know, it's been a great journey. I mean, obviously, it's not over yet. You know what I mean? I've still got a fair bit of wind in the sails, but it's quite emotional to think that actually I've done all this sort of stuff, and so I've had an incredible time. And say to anybody that wants to get in the industry, if you want it, it's there for the taking. You know, you've really just got to go for it and enjoy every form of aspect, positives and negatives. And I hope a lot of chefs, just touching back on some of the negatives, that a lot of chefs have taken some of this negativity and this disappointment we've had over the last 4 or 5 months, and we've got tough times to come, that we can look at it and turn that into a positive as best we can, really.
Yeah, no, you definitely have to take the positives out of everything, don't you? So, I mean, did you think when you were a 15-year-old lad going around your mate's house cooking a frittata or a quiche that you'd be whacking your life story into a book for the next generation of chefs?
No, not really. Where I'm from as a 15-year-old boy, you start making quiche, people start questioning what coach you're travelling on. Do you know what I'm saying? So the fact that I love a roll on the car park, I always be able to cast myself. But my friends used to obviously, you know, so I was born in 1975, so I'm 45 years old. So when I'm 15 years old and I'm making bean risotto at college, in school with home ec with all the girls, and then I'm halfway through a football match on the field, I say, like, guys, I've got to go because I'm cooking I've got a part-time job cooking. I mean, the amount of stick I got was unreal. Right? It was unreal, but it was probably well deserved where I'm from. But now I get a lot of them now that come to the restaurants and they say everyone used to take the piss when you used to leave halfway through the football match to go and do cooking. So, but now we love to come to the restaurant and we know the facts, and they're so proud of me, which is great, because from where I'm from, lots of chefs, you know, it's never a job that you come from a sort of a well-heeled or educated family. Chefs of my generation basically didn't have much of an opportunity to do anything, because I'm not great academically. I mean, I can count because I know when someone's ripping me off. That's the only sort of thing that you were sort of taught, really. My spelling is awful. Yeah, my spelling is awful. But it was the only thing. It was that old. And my dad said, when you finish messing around with the cooking, I get you a proper job in a factory. And being from the Midlands, the job in a factory was pretty normal, you know. There are car factories and all the rest of it, engineering, straight into factory, clock in, clock out. And I was adamant that wasn't big for me. So to see it all sort of mapped out and see the journey I've been to. I mean, I've met the Queen, I have. Do you know what I mean? Bono knocked his drink out of my head. But the thing is what we forget is the Queen has met me. That's the difference.
And I'm sure she will never forget you.
I'm sure she won't either.
I mean,
nearly end up in the cellar.
I mean, you credit your dad for your work ethic, don't you? In in the book, and him, you know, forcing you to kind of get a job for things that you wanted to pay for and all the rest of it. I mean, I don't think he encouraged you to nick the milk and the orange juice off of people's doorsteps, but that did come in part of your paper round. So I'm learning all sorts of things about you, Glynn.
No, it's no. He taught me how to. You had to get up and work hard. Basically, that was it. And I was the oldest. I'm the oldest boy. I've got an older sister, but she got sort of let off lightly. I got all the drive and all the sort of like. The pushing, really, and I think if you've got that work ethic from a young age, this industry is perfect for you, because it is hard working and the hours are long and the rewards financially are not that great to start with, but the reward of what you do for a living is, you know, like Luke went off when he was at the Hands. He went and he left and he went to work in a bakery for 12 months. Was it? Yeah. 12 months, but then he realised, although the bakery he was paying his wages and he was doing a great job, he missed that reward of working in a restaurant, serving customers, making somebody's birthday, making somebody's special occasion. So I think that work ethic is there. I mean, as for robbing the milk and the orange juice, I was at an event a while back, and I do believe that me and Sat were robbing bottles of champagne. So it's only
You've gone up a level.
It's gone up a level, yeah. I don't know where it's going to end. Yeah?
And it does also say that you spend more time with Luke than your wife. Is that something you can vouch for, that, Luke?
Yes. Yeah, same as I spend more time with Glynn than I do with my own wife. So yeah, you know, yeah. But that's. I mean, we say it. I think I say it in the book, and I think a lot of the guys attest to that with their little statements in the book. You know, it's a family at the end of the day. And Purnell's is a family business, and you know, obviously, like I say, I myself, I've been here 10 years. You know, Phil and Sam been here six odd years. Cheese, who came here, he's been here 5 years. You know, we've got a core team in the kitchen. Obviously, we've got out front as well, but in the kitchen is a core team, and you spend all your time in that small little environment. You know, more time than you do with anyone else. So that's what makes it work, and that's what makes us work together. We all work so well together, and if you didn't, then we wouldn't be able to spend that amount of time with each other.
Well, you'd be sat on separate Zooms with me, wouldn't you? You'd be in a different room.
Yeah. And that is what is really enriching and endearing about the industry, is the fact that you have got lots of people in the industry that will go from job to job to job to job, which is great, the learning process, but you have got that immense sense of loyalty when you work in the kitchen. It's a little bit like, and I mentioned it to Heston when we were doing the Great British Menu in 2008. Chefs are like Spartans. There's only 300 of us, and the rest of the world is descending upon us. And the only thing we can do is lift our shields and stick side by side. And that's what it's like. That is what it's like in the kitchen. You know, when the shit hits the fan halfway through a Saturday night, you don't be falling out with people, because we all got to stick together. And that's the sort of ethos we've had at Purnell's. But I do think it spreads to many kitchens across the country and across the world, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Okay, chefs are like Spartans. I'm keeping that one.
Yeah. We don't obviously during the service we just wear red pants, capes, and that's about it really. So there's a lot of burnt ointment going around during the busy part of a Saturday.
What an amazing service that would be.
Yes, for some people, yes.
So, are there, I mean, this is a question for both of you, but are there any particular stories that are your favourites? I mean, obviously they are your filtered selection of stories that you've chosen to share, but are there any that you particularly really like, and had you kind of forgotten about before you started actually writing everything down? Because sometimes when you start writing stuff down, that's when you're like, oh, actually, I remember when that happened. I mean, I do feel like receiving a turd in a box is a life goal that you definitely want to achieve at some point.
Do you remember? Remember we had the terrorists?
Yeah.
So Luke,
I enjoyed that.
Luke can tell you that one. Yeah. That just blew my mind. I forgot I put that in.
Yeah, that was when Dave Taylor was there, wasn't it? And me and him came on the Saturday before we used to open Saturday lunches. Yeah. And we found this little suspicious package through the envelope, for the letterbox. Yeah. And then he put some gloves on and a mask. We unwrapped it. And it was human feces wrapped up in newspaper clippings, I think. And then we checked on the CCTV and we saw the exact moment and who it was, who done it.
And the police came round.
Did they send you another one as well?
There was two, yeah. One came through the back door, literally, and then the other one came through the front door, and yeah, it's all in the space of over a week.
Yeah.
So 2 Saturdays in a row, we had these suspicious.
To the point now, at the back of the back door, which is still the original back door from sort of like the early 19th century, there's a massive piece of wood now nailed, so you can't put it through the letterbox.
No more kids through your letterbox.
No wrapped up poos for us anymore. We don't need that on a Saturday.
It was a wrapped up poo, and it had like loads of like locations written down.
Yeah, and celebrities like world famous celebrities
written over
like that. Yeah, and it was probably one of the strangest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, you ever get to the, pardon my wording, but do you ever get to the bottom of it? Wow.
No, the guy, he never returned. There's 2 incidents and that was it. I think
he seriously constipated. Sorry. He hasn't had a good ship for 5 years. My favourite story is... I forgot about that one. I forgot. My favourite story is about... it's quite a long-winded one, so I won't go into the story. They'll have to read it, but it's about when the guy came in and threatened a member of staff. Do you remember that story?
Was this one where they were on a date or something? Oh no, was it an affair?
It was some guy was taking his secretary out, which I do not condone in any part of the whatever.
Yes, no, because that was one of mine. Cause the pre-dessert sex sessions that people had in your disabled toilet. I think that's related, no?
The best thing, they still come in now, right? And we always turn around and say, make sure you lock the disabled toilet, because they had an affair, right? And they used to, like, just before the pre-dessert, he used to turn around and say, Chef, I think they're shagging in the disabled toilets, right? Oh, yeah. So, which is a pretty good, decent space. So,
it's big.
It's big, right? Yeah. And then eventually, they both left their partners, and they come now, and they're nowhere near as much fun.
No, boring now.
Nowhere near as much fun. Obviously, we can't say who they are.
I mean, they're going to read the book and realise that they're in there, though, aren't they?
Yeah, they're pre-ordered. Yeah, they're pre-ordered it. They were the first people to buy it. They tried to buy all 1,400 copies. Funny enough. Yeah, so that's in there. And it's just like sometimes in the restaurant world, you see stuff and you go, "Wow, that actually just happened?" And I think that was the slight angle of it all, because I think sometimes. When you write about the restaurant, you write about the romance, and you write about how we got the beef was hung for 40 days. That all happens anyway. That happens standard, because that's what restaurants at this level and above do, right? But what they don't tell you is about when customers have sex before the pre-dessert, where terrorists post poo into your letterbox. And somebody gets knocked out on the door, and then I have to lock the door, go out, bring an ambulance, try and wake him up, and then lock him back out. I mean, that sort of stuff I think people should know, because I've been running restaurants for a long time, and nothing ever surprises me at all.
I feel like we could do a podcast just with those stories. Like, I feel like we could just have a regular podcast with chefs about the stories that they probably shouldn't tell.
I think it's not in an uncool way or a way of saying I don't know, this is as crude as it gets. It's just that little bit of honesty that, like, to be fair, this is what happens. And, I mean, I've had a guy who's drinking these double rums at the start of opening. Next to me, there's a massive row with his wife. Actually, he grabbed his wife around the neck, and then they've gone, chef, you have to come out. This is before you started. I've had to go out and like wrestle him off his wife. Do you know what I mean? I mean. It's just like, you think, I'm just a chef. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just bizarre. I reckon you should crack on with that, because I reckon if you speak to a lot of chefs, restaurant owners, well, not just chefs, front of house guys, I mean, they must have seen more than us.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? If you was a restaurant manager, a general manager of a hotel, they must have seen some horrific stories, and we want to hear them stories.
I do. Reading this book made my day. I was like, wow, these are great. Like, there was things in there, so I did mention it, but you could I suppose you can tell the story, but Claude and the snails, I didn't see that coming, with the way you had to be quiet with your snails.
Well, nor did I. So, like, I went to work with Claude in Ludlow, and he was like, Claude's French, but he was very French then. Okay, I mean it's not a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying he was very French, right? And he was very adamant with his methods, his techniques, and his ideology of what was what, right? So every piece of meat that came in the building, whether it was chicken, rabbit, veal, lamb, had to be hung. Everything came whole on the bone. Nothing coming pre-prepped. You couldn't make certain things unless it was like 40 minutes before service. You couldn't do anything that, do you know what I mean? He was like very much in his way. Even though you could say to him, actually, chef, we could do it this way and it might be quicker. No, that's the way it's done. Fair enough, that's his kitchen. So he said to me, go downstairs and get the snails from downstairs. So we had live snails. And at the time, there was only 2, I think, chefs in the country, or 3, that had live snails. So normally you buy them either blanched, frozen, or already taken out the shell. Claude being a Frenchman, I wouldn't expect anything less. We had live snails, right? So they came in a box. They came from Hereford, and the guy that came in, I'm sure his name was Tony, and we used to call him Tony the Snail. It wasn't as quick as we are now. His name was Tony, and I realised we're working in Ludlow. A lot of these people that produce things looked like their ingredients. So, like the chicken man come, right? And he was like round, and he had like a really little nose, and he almost moved his neck like that. He looked like a chicken, this guy, but he did the eggs for us. Tony came, and he had like he used to pop his head out of his collar almost, and his little round glasses on. He used to talk really slow. The guy he had the characteristic look of what would be a snail. A nice snail, like Gary from SpongeBob. That's a snail. I mean, not one you'd want to eat, but like Gary. So his name was Tony, not Gary. So anyway, Claude said to me, go down and get the snails, but be quiet. So be quiet. So okay, so I've run downstairs, and I'm not the quietest person in the world, so I'm singing along. He said to me, shut up. I said, he said, you'll wake them. I said, wake who? I started talking again. He punched me in the arm. He said, I said, we're on a base. What did you do that for? He said, shut up. And then he punched me in the arm again. And then I realised you had to be quiet because you didn't want to wake the snails up. What? So you didn't want to wake the snails up because apparently, this is what Claude said, this is what he said, that when the snail wakes up, the head will pop out, and when you blanch them, their antennae will all be raggy and the snail won't be nice and tucked up. You need them to stay asleep so you can blanch them. Who would have thought?
Never knew that.
Nor did I. I had a bruised arm.
You've never shouted at a snail since, have you?
No. And I've never seen Gary since, so I don't know whether he's lying around covered in garlic butter or whether he's still alive.
You'll have to find out. You should find out about him.
Have you seen Gary? Swipe left or right? That's all I'm saying.
So the book itself, I know, is it how you envisaged? Like now you've seen a physical copy. When you first, the concept, and when you both said this is what we're going to do, now you've seen it. Is that how you thought it would look? Is it better than you thought? Is it heavier than you thought?
It's heavier than I thought. No, I working on the last 2 books, and then obviously with the idea of what Chef wanted to come in and do with this one, and then we kind of took it forwards. It's bigger than I thought it would be in terms of the whole book, not just the size of the book. But yeah, it's far exceeded my expectations of what I thought would produce. Not that I had low expectations, but I had high expectations. It's surpassed that. For me, it's such an incredible insight into the world, but also it's a bloody beautiful book, isn't it? The pictures and the photography and the whole styling of it is for me it's on level with the best. I don't know, it's so much better than I thought it would be, and I mean that in a highly positive way.
And I think as well, it's also the cost of it is slightly expensive. And at first I was like, I don't really want to charge that much because, as a chef, you want to buy a book and have it, whatever. But because there's only 1,500 copies, that's it. It's just one print. That's it.
Okay, so you're not done. You won't do any more. That's the lot.
That's as far as it stands now. That's all I'm going to do. It's not a cheap book, but what you get for your money is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
The pictures, obviously, Luke's on the recipes. Pictures are on point, and the stories will make you roll around. It's an insight to the way that I've taken my career and had these people around me, and it's an insight on what you have if you've had oysters for starter and then sex in the disabled toilet for pre-desserts. It's an aphrodisiac. It's got a little bit of everything in it, and it's got tales of things that have happened that you wouldn't normally read about, that as a chef you'd probably really appreciate and probably connect to it as well, and think, well, actually, yeah, that's the life we live. And I hope that with some of the stories that are a little bit brutal and a little bit sort of there, that some chefs will come out and tell us their stories to make the whole industry chuckle a bit in such a rough sort of time that we're in, really. So that's well, no, I'm really impressed, and I'm happy the way that it's came out. I mean, okay, I like to think that I can always do something better. So when sometimes you look and think, well, actually, I should have done that, but you've got to sometimes capture what is on your mind at that time. And that's what I think a book should be. It is of what that time is. You want a book to be timeless, but it'll always capture the time you wrote it. So sometimes you have to step back and say, that is what I wrote at that time, and I was feeling at that time, and then be a bit brave and say that's what it is.
Yeah, it's quite cool, really, to think that if you think about the books you looked at when you were a young chef, that you're the next generation of young chefs, that hopefully they'll have like your book, and that's something that they will look to and aspire to be like.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's nice to think that you've got your little place in history. You know, when I look back at 15, whatever, making quiche around my mate's house, which obviously is purely platonic, is to look back and look and say, well, actually, I've put my little piece of history. And at the start of the book as well, there's 2 pages of all the chefs that I feel inspired me from the time I started cooking, and also that time of when I first opened my restaurant. So there may be some chefs that are not on the list, but they're probably the next generation, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So I tried to sort of put down chefs that have inspired me of this generation, which I believe is the golden generation of British cookery. The likes of Tom, Daniel, Claude, Sat, Brett Graham, and even like chefs that have taken British cookery and we're not just cooking French food. We've taken inspiration and we've made our own sort of style of food, and I think that's what has happened through the sort of generation that I'm in, really. Yeah.
So final thing, whilst I've got you both, you might as well plug your book. So when and where is it available?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. Maybe we'll email that to you afterwards.
I think my understanding, right, because it's all through Away Media, which is Andy Richardson, who writes for the Chef magazine, who is also a journalist in the area and nationally. So he and Michelle did all the pictures, and Andy did a lot of the writing with me. I think you can get it on our website, which you can pre-order it.
Okay.
You can, which is the main way to get it at the moment. So you'll get it from our website, which you can pre-order it, which is £10 cheaper if you order it now than when it comes out. And then eventually there'll be copies, only a limited amount of copies will be available on Amazon. Okay. And that is about it. We're not taking it to any shops and stuff. We feel that from here, from the centre of Mount Doom, Mordor, which is obviously the centre of the world as far as I'm concerned, Birmingham. You get it straight from here, or eventually we'll be on Amazon. So,
and when is it officially released? Do you have a release date?
It's supposed to be either the 7th of September or the 14th.
Brilliant. Well, thank you both so much. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed reading the book, and I'm sure that anyone that gets the opportunity to will also as well, because it's been a long time since I've had an actual laugh out loud chuckle whilst I was reading through a copy of a digital copy of a book. Normally they're just so different, aren't they, to a physical copy? So yeah. No, it was brilliant. It was really, really good. So thank you both very much, and I'll let you go.
Fantastic, thank you.
All right, brilliant. Thank you.
There you go. Cheers, thanks.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this interview, and if you have any comments, feel free to tweet us or comment on the post. We're making all of our interviews available to download. And if you want to support us to continue creating great content with amazing people from the hospitality industry, please take a look at our contribution scheme on www.thestaffcanteen.com. This episode of Grilled is sponsored by Rationale, your leading provider in multifunctional hot food preparation equipment. Register now for a free Rationale live demo at www.rationale-online.com.